As the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Gosar, Dr. Gosar, for 5 minutes.
Yes, to my panel. Outside circulated memos, what true or real hardcore pursuits of FOIA enforcement have you seen from this administration and Department of Justice? I would like to start with Ms. Nesbitt.
I do know all FOIA professionals in the government, in the executive branch agencies, have gotten guidance on the President's memos, on Attorney General Holder's memos. That's not only written guidance, but training, FOIA training, which is regularly done, not only by the Department of Justice, but by agencies as well on their FOIA responsibilities. So certainly the guidance and the word is getting out there, but it does take time.
Okay.
Dr. Gosar.
Mr. Metcalf.
Well, Dr. Gosar, as my written testimony explains in even greater detail, I think a major aspect, a critical aspect of implementation is being able to show examples, concrete examples, so people at other agencies can see what actually has occurred. First and foremost in litigation, perfect opportunity for examples, and then even examples of actual discretionary disclosures that have been made under the foreseeable harm standard at particular agencies, especially if it were the Department of Justice, the lead. That's something that's a major part of implementation that I think has been lacking. It probably will come in time. It almost has to as a matter of good common sense, but the fact that we are here 2 years after the fact, even on the Holder Memorandum, and there has not been one litigation case cited, despite people in the openness and government community clamoring for that, where that's taken place, is telling. And it stands in very stark contrast with what happened and what I know firsthand happened in the implementation of the Reno Memorandum during the Clinton administration.
You know, from your expertise here, I mean, we've seen an unprecedented tactic of choosing laws to uphold and to ignore. Arizona is a perfect example of that. I'm from Arizona, FYI. Do you see an ability that something that we could do to have better access and revitalize America's access to FOIAs that the administration and the Department of Justice could do?
Well, when you use the word "we," Dr. Gosar, do you mean this committee first and foremost? Mm-hmm. I think a very simple step this committee could take right away with respect to the Exemption 3 statutes is to focus on the roughly half of them that our academic study showed do not qualify as Exemption 3 statutes to begin with. That would be an easy hit, so to speak. You could build upon the research that we did. Then beyond that, what the Department of Justice could do is follow more of the model of what was done during the Clinton years to implement by example. That's just a key thing that doesn't seem to be there.
If each one of you had to pick an agency, which one is the worst in compliance with FOIA? Ms. Nesbitt.
Dr. Gosar, that is a very tough question to ask, and I'm not sure that I feel comfortable answering it. We are still looking at agencies as we're very new, and we're still just really beginning to implement our mission.
I'd sure like to see us really pursue this because this is very important to the American public. Mr. Metcalf, do you know?
Dr. Gosar, may I just add, though, I'm going to echo what Mr. Metcalf just said, and that is this committee's looking at FOIA, looking at the issues of transparency and openness are very important and really send a strong message, and I thank you for it.
Well, I would also like to take it a step further because I think, you know, in the real world, Main Street America, when we see an example made of and we reteach an agency how to do something, that makes a stronger advantage point for everybody to follow. That's why I'm asking the question. Mr. Metcalf, one word, which agency?
Well, again, it's difficult to single somebody out, but I can tell you that prior to the time that I retired in January 2007, I was most disappointed by the Department of Treasury, which had plummeted precipitously prior to that in the quality and effectiveness of its FOIA performance. And since then, I'm not sure that that has changed.
Mr. Blum.
And it'll be no surprise that I say that representing news media groups that depending on the issue and the hot news of the time, you're going to have difficulty. Over the last decade, it was with in post 9/11 environment and two wars, the Defense Department and other intelligence agencies were very difficult because we were reporters were trying to get information from them. I think now, as the attention's more turning to financial information and conflicts over access, that's an area of concern. You know, just as a quick example, just to echo what these two witnesses are saying, the Defense Department is very good in the process. They don't not too much drops between the cracks, but they'll tell you no quickly. So, you know, depending on how you're asking the question, I think is you're going to get an
Ms.
answer.
Canterbury, real quick.
I haven't looked at the numbers to give you a specific site for which agency is doing the worst. However, in our experience, we've had lots of trouble at the SEC that require, I think, more investigation, and also the Department of Homeland Security currently. There are several troubling issues around their FOIA practices, including how they're using contractors in the process. So I would say that, but I also, if I could just for a second address your previous question about things that the administration has done on FOIA. I think in addition to the directives, the memorandums, the guidance, and the work that is being done at OGIS, the Open Government Directive has also created a sort of nascent open government infrastructure where FOIA has played a large role. It's been featured. The agencies, when they prepared their open government plans, many of them, if not all, had some FOIA improvement component. And I would say that we weren't completely pleased at POGO with their initial open government plans. We were part of a review process, an independent look at those plans, but we're just beginning. And I think that improvements have already been made not only on those plans, but in the implementation of the Open Government Directive and the President's memorandum on FOIA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Gosar.